Alright, just seeing how this goes. Alright, this is a long overdue stream. Yeah, I meant to do this like a month or more ago. The last time I did one of these, it was in October. And to be perfectly honest, I honestly probably am not in a good place to do this tonight. But I know if I don't do it, that I am not going to get around to it for some time. So let me take a look. So for those of you who have not watched one of these streams before, it is a pay what you want / free tabletop role-playing game quick look, where over the course of my RPG news roundups every week, I do keep an eye out for offerings that are either free or pay what you want from DriveThru RPG or other formats, but usually DriveThru RPG, that offer tabletop role-playing games and accessories. And if they look interesting, they catch my eye, I go ahead and set them aside, and once I get about a dozen or so, often a little bit more, but about a dozen or so, I go ahead and make one of these streams. Now, I had been gathering material for this stream since, as I said, the last one I did was in late October, so since then. Meant to do it in early December, did not get to it. But usually these go on about once every month and a half or so. This is actually my 14th one, so we'll see how it goes. I cover a mix of 5th edition OSR and then miscellaneous material. This week I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 things to go to. A couple of them are rather long. If it is incredibly long, I'll probably set it aside and try and cover them at the end. So there is that. But some of these are incredibly short, so I think we'll be okay this time. As usual, I will post links in the chat when I cover them, and I'll hope to remember to post a link, at the end. And what I will do is verify that each one of these things is actually still free or pay what you want, because in the past, I have actually had issues where I went to cover something that had been free and then it had turned not free in the intervening time. So that always sucks, but hey, there's that. Let me see what I've got. I'm not sure about my audio settings. It's been so long since I've streamed. I need to stream more often, really. I mean, just general things. I do have some streams in terms of indie computer role-playing games that I'm going to do in the coming weeks. Some titles caught my eye when they have like a demo version, or it's an early access, that kind of thing. And sometimes I'll take a look at those. So we'll see how those goes for those who like my streams. I have a backlog of videos to get to. My Let's Plays are going to be a little bit off for a while, and don't worry, I will get to the products here soon. But my Let's Play videos are going to be a little bit sporadic for another couple of days. I'm catching up on them. I've had my schedule basically wrecked due to a lot of things going on early this year. But we shall see about me coming up. And I do have some ideas for new material, which hopefully will be worth watching. Don't know why people watch my stuff, but it'll be worth watching. All right, so let's start this show. I have, and as usual, the VOD will be up on YouTube for that's where I get most of my views on these things. Very few people actually drop in to watch the stream live, but I like to stream live just in case somebody wants to come and ask questions. The first one will be called Magma and Ice Trolls. It is a product from Lone Colossus Games for 5th edition D&D. It is a pay-what-you-want product that covers just 2 types of monsters, Magma and Ice Trolls, elemental trolls. So the link will be coming up in chat very shortly, as soon as I get back to the correct window. And I will be putting affiliate links together in there, but
even though these are free / pay what you want, you know, just in case somebody wants to support me like that. So let's take a look at it. Magma and Ice Trolls. Okay, let's one full page. All right, let's see if I can actually read this stuff, shall we? So as you can tell, the art is it's okay for what it is. It's not great, but it's okay. What I just from a critical point of view, like I probably would have wanted to put this monthly monster issue thing like up a few font sizes, so it's like this, you know, not critical, but it could happen. Or alternatively, because it is actually a larger font size than the rest, make it a different font or something, you know. Just a little design tip, just make it stand out. All right. Magma and Ice Trolls, not technically trolls. Magma and Ice Trolls are called such for the similarities in their appearances as well as for their ability to regenerate. More generally, adventurers like to refer to them as elemental trolls, although there are no records of such creatures existing with alignments towards electricity or acid. So, in other words, just para-elemental of those two types. Magma and Ice Trolls are very similar in appearance, aside from the fact that one is in fact made of rock with magma coursing through it, and the other is made of exceptionally hard ice. And it just goes on to describe them. Magma and Ice Trolls are extremely unlikely to be found together. Yeah, I wonder why. Magma Trolls, unsurprisingly, live on or near volcanoes. On the other hand, Ice Trolls are found only where even the rivers freeze over. Cold places near the poles of the Earth-like world, or high in the mountains where a full thaw never occurs. Okay. Magma and Ice Trolls are highly territorial, just like under a bridge. I don't know how my connection is going to be doing. It looks like OBS just cut out and cut back in, so we shall see what's going on. I don't know how much was lost, but that's okay because I'm just reading this. Magma and Ice Trolls are highly territorial, etc. I covered that once they moved in, whether to a cave or under a bridge. Yet another reason some call them trolls. Their elemental nature helps keep the surrounding area to their preferred temperature. So they've got elemental cores. All Magma and Ice Trolls contain some amount of energy associated with the elemental plane of fire or cold. So there is a plane of fire, but there's not a plane of cold. So I'm thinking these are supposed to be para-elemental. As you can see, there's just 2 stat blocks and then some OGL content, so it's not going to take long. These cores are highly sought after by wizards wishing to create. With OBS, I'm trying to. It says I have an excellent connection. It says I have an excellent connection, and yet I keep dropping and reconnecting. So yay for that, I guess. Who knows? If it keeps doing it, though, I may have to put this off, and I don't want to. Alright, well, if it's too spotty, I'll just upload the VOD from what I'm recording. Magma Troll, a large monstrosity, neutral evil. An Ice Troll, also a large monstrosity. They've got AC 18 and 18 natural, just like Plate. Their challenge rating 9. So they've got Plate-like AC, 150 and 152 hit points, the same speed. Do they have the same stats? They have exactly the same stats. It's just a copy-paste job. The damage immunities are changed as expected. Damage resistances are the same. Yet another, the condition immunities, senses, and languages are all copy-paste. Stone body on Magma Troll is considered a construct made up entirely inorganic materials. Same with the ice body for the other one, another copy-paste. Molten body. Whenever a creature starts its turn or enters a space within 10 feet of the Magma Troll for the first time on a turn, it must make a Constitution saving throw or take 2d6 fire damage. Additionally, the Magma Troll emits dim light in a 60-foot radius and is immune to any effect that would alter its form. Whenever the Magma Troll is hit by a non-magical weapon, the weapon's wielder must make a dexterity saving throw or the weapon melts or burns instantaneously. Non-magical missiles are automatically destroyed. I like that. I really do. That's actually some sort of thing that I'm probably going to steal for some other creatures that I put into another campaign. That basically punishes people that attack them with non-magical weapons and gives them an automatically, or not an automatically damaging aura, but an aura that lets them damage multiple people, which can be very helpful for single large baddies because they tend to get surrounded and killed pretty quick due to action economy. Let's take a look at Frozen Body for the Ice Troll. Whenever a creature starts its turn or enters space within 10 feet of the Ice Troll for the first time on a turn, it must make Constitution saving throw or take damage, and it's the same damage. Additionally, the Ice Troll emits dim light in a 60-foot radius. That's exactly the same copy-paste thing. Whenever the Ice Troll is hit by a non-magical weapon, the weapon's wielder must make a dexterity saving throw, or the weapon is turned to ice and shatters instantaneously. Again, it's like basically a copy-paste. Our regeneration is the same, 15 hit points at the start of its turn. If it takes cold damage or is doused at least 20 gallons of water, this trait doesn't function, so it gives you regeneration a way around it, just like a normal troll. Same with the Ice Troll, and it works the same way except using fire damage or of a fire of large size. And I'm looking at the multi-attack, 3 attacks for the Magma Troll, Bite, 2d8 plus 4, 1d6 fire damage. Claws, that's 2 of the claws, 2d6 plus 4 slashing plus 1d6 fire. Same for the eyes. So these are basically copy-pasted copy-pasted versions of one another. Don't even know why they're 2 creatures, but I guess. In terms of the creature design, like the actual handout, I could probably have made a little bit, a couple design changes there, but it does the job. It's not ugly. It just doesn't stand out a lot. In terms of the stats, I got no problem with stats. That's actually the kind of creature I would use. Well designed in terms of that. I could think of a few encounters where they would be nice. When I do stuff like these, I definitely put them in environmentally appropriate challenge areas. So I would say put a Magma Troll in a volcano or something, an Ice Troll in an Ice maze. So that's covered in here. That fits around. Yeah, that's not a bad little product. Now I noticed that is monthly monster issue number 8. And it's from last year, so I'm assuming there's like a 9, a 10, or whatever. Let's take a look at their site real quick. Lone Colossus Games. Do you have a lot of these? Yes, I think they do. Yes, the last one was Alganor the Yeti King. And so, yeah, they've got like a fair number of these little encounters with creatures in them. So yeah, that's not bad. The art is all very similar. I'm not impressed with the art, but an attempt was made, so I got to give them that. That's a nice little product. Pay what you want. Yeah, I've seen worse. It's not bad. At least the creature design on those 2 was good. If it's the same on similar ones from their other products, then hell, maybe that'd be a good little place for people to find nice monsters. Next up is Crips and Serpents 5th edition. What the hell is this? Let me make sure I'm doing this right. Crips and Serpents 5th edition. It is from the Basic Expert. It is a pay-what-you-want issue. Modern 5th edition gets a few things right in regards to its roots and legacy, but also changes a lot of things. The hope of this is it will make 5th edition players see how cool old school play is. So it's like a plug-in for 5th edition that makes it more old school. I've seen a ton of those out there. So whether or not this is up your alley can probably, be taken from that. Let me go ahead and post this link into the chat. This is again Crips and Serpents 5th edition. And we will take a look at what it is. Yeah, 1 second. Just go ahead and make some notations. Alright. Crips and Serpents. Old school rules for your 5th edition games. Initial impression, they use the good font for the cover. That's the classic D&D font. I've got it. I don't remember exactly what it is, but I use it for my RPG News Roundup title. I like the cover art. I love the presentation. It's a good overall cover presentation for what it is. Although I will say this. It is a 5th edition thing that's meant to be old school, and this looks like 100% OSR stuff. So I would like, if I had to design change anything, like just as a matter of critique, I would probably make this 5th edition thing like a little larger. Otherwise, people will just assume it's done another OSR product. Nice angle. Okay, written and illustrated by Jonathan Torres. It is a 15-page product, so it's not that big. You got your OGL license up here. Permission granted to print this document for personal use. You can. I've got the Basic Expert on YouTube. I need to start checking out the YouTube channels of some of the stuff that I cover. That is just something I need to do. Need a lot of time too, but there we go. So it just gives you an indication of what they change. In 1974, the hobby of tabletop role-playing games was born. This changed basements and late evenings with friends forever. The greatest role-playing game on Earth came into existence, and friends gathered around a table with pencils and paper to roll funky-shaped polyhedral dice. Together, they told stories about dark, dangerous dungeons, monsters, heroes, villains, and adventure, and totally not like day-to-day activities in a neo-Seattle. Since then, the hobby has exploded. Streamers and pop culture have fully embraced tabletop role-playing games to their detriment, I might add. What was once looked at as nerdy and uncool to many 15 to 20 plus years ago is now decidedly awesome and hip for now. All right, so this basically goes on to tell what it is. The aim of this set of rules modifications is also to make the game more dangerous and deadly for player characters and to make combat encounters less of a slog. In full disclosure, one of my main problems with 5th edition is how survivable it is. And my main 5th edition game that I'm running, not the one that I run for patrons, but the main 5th edition game I'm running for my friends, I have a number of modifications that I've made that affect the play to make it feel more old school. And so something like this is right up my alley. So let's see if I get any inspiration here. Okay. With that, you should be able to keep the books you already have purchased for your 5th edition games. Yeah, gee, I hope so. Crips and Serpents should be able to provide players and game masters with easy tools to convert or replace the parts of their books that need it while keeping the rest. This is a resource heavily influenced by what is called the Old School Renaissance and Old School Retro clones, often abbreviated to OSR. OSR games are a complete rework of the entire rule books to create their own game. Crips and Serpents is noticeably thinner. The reason for this is twofold. First, he has no desire at the moment to make an entire rulebook and illustrate it on their own. Secondly, while there are many things old school gamers find not to their liking in 5th edition, there are many things the modern game system gets right. And I will say that 5th edition gets some things right. I don't have any hope for 6th edition going forward, but 5th edition gets some things right. For instance, the use of skills tied to core attributes and unifying most of the roles for what players want to do in a single D20. That is good. I do like that. But that doesn't come from 5th edition. That comes from 3rd edition. Some may find the old method of thief ability tables enjoyable. That's fine, but many modern players, etc., etc. So this basically makes things more deadly. Easiest way, turn ability score rolls into 3d6. That gives you a 9 to 11 average range instead of a 10 to 11 average range. Which means that your average range on all stats, just assuming that they use the same bell curve, are going to be like half to 1% lower on an equivalent distribution. Not 1%, half. 1/2 to 1 full point lower, which may bump everything down. This may infuriate the power gamers, and munchkins are already tuning out at this point, etc., etc. Players shouldn't be afraid to play flawed heroes. Remember, this is a tabletop role-playing game, and that is true. Now, there are characters that, depending on the game, like if I was doing like I honestly don't. I love 3d6, but I never use it. I almost never use the 3d6 assign as you want. I don't even think this is assign as you want. This is just using 3d6. But this does give you a table to explain low scores, which can be useful. Your little hamlet or village was raided as a child and you were injured. While on the road performing an errand for a parent or mentor, you were attacked by a wild boar or a wild beast. You were an unwanted baby and left to be exposed in the wild. You were rescued by what would be your parent or guardian, but the exposure in the wild affected you. You were conscripted at a young age and went to war. So in other words, you're a child soldier. You were kidnapped by an evil wizard whose magical experiments left you scarred and permanently affected. I like this table. It's nice to have explanations for low scores. Even though I can usually come up with one, it's nice to see them. Skills, trained and untrained. Skills are an important part of the game. If characters trained in a skill, go ahead and roll for the trained skills you normally would. However, untrained skills are always rolled with disadvantage. I like this one. I like this one. Because there's at least, not like almost every 5th edition game that I've run where I bother to use skills, and I don't on some of them. But every 5th edition game I've run where I've bothered to use skills, there's always been at least 1 or 2 situations where I'll be like, roll Arcana, and the wizard will fail and roll like a 1, and even with their bonus, it's below the DC. And then the warrior with like basic intelligence, never touched magic in his life, will come up and roll a freaking 20, and just barely manage to squeak by the score. So I like this idea of using untrained skills with disadvantage. I will say that. At character creation, allow characters to choose an extra skill of their choice to be trained in. If you're going to use that, that would balance things out. Yeah, I got no problem with that. That's a good side rule. That's a good side rule. Starting gold and equipment. Have your characters each roll 3d6. Each player multiplies by 10. That's the standard gold ratio for old school. That gives you a good spread where some characters will be rich, some characters will be poor. That's how it is in real life. Sorry to say. But you got to adapt with what you got. I was born to an incredibly poor family. So I know how it goes. I know it sucks. But, that's you try to overcome and see where you go. And I like doing that on tabletop too. I can understand why people don't like doing it, and I understand that it makes character creation longer, but it is nice to do. Races and classes. Try to make this game feel old school. Restrict races to elves, dwarves, halflings, and humans. I kind of love that, but then I constantly get like complaints from my players. Oh, I want to play this. I want to play. What I did with that one is I set a lot of my 5th edition stuff in a world where the weirder races are treated like they look. So if you walk up with a tiefling, then you're going to be treated like you have a pact with the devil, that sort of thing. I got one that's set in a similar world. I got one person playing a drow and one person playing a hobgoblin, of all things. And they have to literally stay outside of town when they first come into a new town. They basically can't enter town. So they wanted to play him. I let them play him, but they need to learn that people are going to see him and almost immediately reach for their weapons. So they had no problem with that, and they've actually done pretty good with a group. There is that. Oftentimes, modern players think being a minotaur, a cat, or a cat person, or some other random or exotic race is what makes their character unique. They scoff at someone who plays a boring elf or human. In reality, what should make a player character unique is not their race, but their character, personality, and motivations. Exactly. Oh. And this commentary, much like real life, yes. This, Jonathan Torres, in that one statement, summarized the issue with so many modern role players. And it's not even just D&D. I get that in a free-form game I play. They're like, oh, I want to play... you're just a human. I want to play like this winged cat person with, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's great, but what are they like? Oh well, they're a winged cat person with a lizard tail. I'm like, yeah, you said that, but what are they like? What are they interested in? And they just draw a blank, and it's the same with a lot of role players. You're supposed to create a personality for your character, let that define them, rather than just oh, you're the tiefling. Because if you just let it be, oh, you're the tiefling, then guess what? Everybody's just going to call you tiefling. or elf for that matter. It works with the old school races too. Anyway, think of Conan the Barbarian as Conan a barbarian, a thief, a fighter. He often takes a role of all three from time to time. Many of your things your players want to do can be done through role playing. For instance, the Warlock class becomes redundant if you simply allow a wizard to encounter some kind of entity to make a pact with it. Exactly. A paladin becomes redundant if you allow your player who is a fighter to be devout, pious, and religious. Exactly. So that's actually pretty good. Clerics are restricted to bludgeoning. Oh, this is the cleric. The cleric changes. They're restricted to bludgeoning weapons only. Yes, that's old school. That's actually kind of... I'm kind of like this on that because it is really old school to restrict clerics to only bludgeoning. However, that came from kind of a misnomer on the reading of a historical context originally. So I actually don't mind. Like it was never a big thing to me that clerics could use non-bludgeoning weapons. I understand, in retrospect that people enjoy the idea for OSR purists, but that wasn't really a huge thing with me. The only ranged weapon they may have is oil. I had a problem with that too because what happened to slings? They're bludgeoning. Orange soda. Love it. Turn undead for clerics will use the chart above. So you've got a turn undead chart, which is very much old school. Like instead of the will saves from 5th edition, it actually makes it a proper old school turn undead chart. That's awesome. Fighters are trained in warfare and combat. Because of this fact, fighters have no restrictions on weapons and armor. That's good. Rogues have no weapon restrictions, but are restricted to light armor. That makes them more useful because they can use more weapons like they could in many original games. Although I think they did have serious weapon restrictions, at least in like 1st edition. But I know in like basic they didn't. Wizards cannot use any armor and are restricted to daggers and quarterstaffs. Again, where's the slings? All right, the dwarf. Love this art. Love this art. Love this art too. For different reasons. Love these two arts, yeah. Dwarves are hardy and resilient folk. Ability score restrictions, which they took off on modern games, but I can understand where they came from. Constitution score cannot be less than 9. And cannot have a charisma score above 17. Dwarves, there's just background on the dwarves and alignment. Size is medium. This is just basic stuff. 60-foot dark vision. Can't discern color in darkness, only shades of gray. That's pretty standard. Dwarven resilience, advantage on saves versus poison. Proficiency with... Yeah, this is basically... Like, dwarves, don't barely change, aside from the ability score restrictions. Dwarves are actually very old school to start with. I actually go one further and make their stone cunning apply to other things that classic dwarven... detections used to do back in older editions. Elves. Oh, they make elves tribal in this, so they're more like wood elves. Intelligence cannot be less than 9. You can't have strength or constitution above 17. That's interesting. Background on elves for the particular setting. Got elven dark vision. Proficiency in the perception skill. Fey Ancestry. You have advantage on saving throws against charm. That's standard. Trance. Don't need to sleep. That's very standard. Halflings restrict strength to 17. That's pretty cool. It's just very, very old school. Halflings are pretty much the same as in the base game. Alright. So they don't change these much. What do they do for humans? Humans, they don't do crap for humans. Not really. Oh, well, no, they take away some of the things that they added to... They take away that one bonus that they gave humans in 5th edition, basically, for this. And I'm like hit or miss on that. I mean, I could take it or leave it. Levels and experience points. They give you variable experience for each class, which is good. I used to love that, and I still do. And they give you a bonus for experience scores of 15 or more. They give you the percentage bonus from old school. That's good. What about class ability feats that require access after level 10 in the class? Because they cap it at 10, you'll notice. This table only goes up to level 10, and it only has 4 classes. So the Game Master should consider skills that gain after level 10 as rewards for players as well. So instead of having, and I love this idea too, actually. Instead of who the hell is calling me? Fuck, hold on a second.
Call from Ortega Felix.
Who the hell? Oh my god. That was a sales call. The hell? I hate it because they basically spoof the number now. All right, am I got my audio back on? My bad. I have to take unknown, like when I see unknown numbers, I have to take it because I have family members that can't keep track of their own damn numbers, so they're constantly calling me from like weird phone numbers. Anyway, XP from gold is only done once amongst players. That's cool. So give you experience for gold. They up the experience required and they cap it at 10. And then anything over level 10 in terms of abilities you can give out as like abilities that they learn as a prize or treasure in game. I like that idea. I actually love that idea. I need to do that more often myself. Okay, hit points and hit dice. This just tells you to roll instead of averaging it. Rest, healing, and death. The rules for rest, healing, and death, and the rules as written make adventuring far too forgiving and safe. All right. Yeah, I agree with that. In fact, I mentioned that at the start of this particular look. Rest, no matter how short or long, only restores 1 hit point a day. That's it. One of the bigger issues with the modern rules is how sleeping for 8 hours can fully heal stab wounds and deep lacerations. Not so with these rule changes. And here's the thing about that. So hit points were never actually supposed to be like meat, so to say. I mean, some people said they were basically meat, but they were supposed to have a bit of abstraction in them, right? So I can understand getting them back quickly. But there's also, where they messed up with 5th edition is that they have both your full hit points and then your hit dice, right? And your hit dice can regain your hit points even faster. So they tried to split the difference and offer, like I've been a proponent sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, of like a tiered hit point system where like most of your hit points you can recover really quickly and then you have a core that are recovered very slowly. I think they tried to do that with 5th edition by offering a 8 hit point pool that recovers with a long rest, but then also hit dice that you can use to recover after every short rest. But the problem is that being able to recover all your hit points as well just renders it all into one quick recovery pool, and there's no vital meat hit points. In other words, you're effectively not getting hit in 5th edition. In 5th edition, because of the way that works, you're effectively not getting actually hit. If you look at it from a purely like meat versus dodging pool and hit points, you're not getting hit until the hit that kills you effectively, because everything else can be recovered in a day. So I always found that kind of ridiculous. So yeah, here they reduce healing hit points to 1 per day. I personally use the rule where like you don't recover hit points. I use a rule where you don't recover hit points. You have to use hit dice to recover on a long rest. So that slows healing right the hell down. And actually has been incredibly useful in my 5th edition game. It's been paced very much like an old school game. They still get it back real quick in town, but it still takes them a couple days to recover, and they have to go back to town for it. Anyway, healing non-magical. A character may only have non-magical forms of healing or skills, such as bandages and sutures. In order to perform the procedure, the game master must pick an appropriate DC and have the players attempting to use the non-magical healing item for a medicine check. This is basically the healing proficiency. Or the healing feat, rather. The healer feat. Okay. Do these actions as you normally would for magical ones. That's cool. I do like this healing. I do like these healing mechanics. I think they're actually even a little bit stricter than what I would use. But I like them. Expanding hit dice. You can't. There's no expending hit dice to heal oneself like in regular 5th edition. Load up on potions and protect your cleric. Okay. Death. Death occurs when a character reaches negative hit points equal to half their constitution score. There are no death saving throws in characters within negative hit points. That character is simply unconscious and must hope their companions can stabilize them in time. And they continue to die, losing 1 hit point. This is basically old school death rules. Except the old school death rules, the DC is adjusted upward if you're really negative in hit points. I like that idea too. Magic and spells, they adjust. Hold on. Magic is obviously a big part of the game. With leveling capped at 10, the leveling chart for wizards becomes impossible and unusable in the official player's guide. In order to fix this, we end up making magic and spell slots easier to use and understand. Alright. Number of spell slots a character has is equal to their level plus their level. The spell slots, not... does that mean like total slots? It needs a little bit of clarity here. Does this mean memorization slots, or does this mean like slots you can cast of a particular, or spells you can cast of a particular level? Hey, really appreciate it, man. And as I've done in the past, I'm going to leave this VOD up so you can watch it later. You take care and have a good rest, and you can go ahead and check this out later. All right. Anyway, yeah, I this needs a little bit more clarity here, I think. The number of cantrips a wizard knows at level 1 is half their intelligence modifier rounded up. The number of spells... Okay, this is spells known. Here. Is half their intelligence modifier rounded up. The number of prepared spells in a day a character can have is equal to their intelligence modifier. Okay, so this is slots. This is slots. But it's not telling me... I guess that they just make wizards into warlocks that way, almost. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, these basically adjust... Yeah, they just adjust them to... They basically made wizards into warlocks that only recover on a long rest. Huh. All spells must be rolled to cast as well. There are no auto-success spells. Players that wish to cast a spell roll 1d20 and add their spellcasting ability modifier against a DC 10 check. It means criticals of both spell failure and success can occur, and then they've got spell casting critical fail chart. You can accidentally kill yourself with it. You can go ahead and put a harmless puff of smoke, which is substantially less dangerous than accidentally blowing yourself up. You light on fire and spontaneously combust. Yeah, I already know that YouTube just demonetized this thing. I read that first one before I thought about it, and YouTube's probably just already demonetized it. Mutation, you sprout feathers or get scales, etc., etc. Neat. I think I said a long time ago. It's been a long time since I've done Dungeon Crawl DCC RPG, but I love the kind of dangerous magic rules. So you have, and hey there, good to see you watching. But I love the kind of dangerous magic rules that make magic risky. Not only because you can like critically fail, but also let's keep in mind a lot of times when you've got very limited spell slots and very limited casting ability, you don't need to critically fail in order to have a spell failure just screw the entire party over. And I love that, because even if you don't critically fail, if you just normal fail a spell and fail to get it off, that can put the party in a lot of danger. And I kind of like that. That means that you can't rely on the wizard to just be able to blow everything up. You can't rely on that wizard to crowd control everything. If he gets it off, that's good, but that puts that wizard in the same position as a warrior that's slashing with a sword. If they miss, that it can turn a fight around, or if they crit, it can turn a fight around. I love that. All right. Aside from casting spells, there needs to be rules regarding the gaining of new spells. Many modern players and GMs issue in favor of just having players automatically know spells upon leveling up. In fact, one of the basic ones is that you can gain 2 spells or something at each level as a wizard. I kind of don't mind that. Because it's assumed that the wizard is studying and experimenting. But at the same time, I also I see where they're coming from, because some spells in 5th edition are so broken, they're like so ridiculously broken, that that players will like automatically pick them up. Now, players in my game generally don't, because the way I balance things is not designed. When I design an adventure, it is generally not balanced, except that the players can finish it. Like, it is finishable. That's all I look for. I don't look for whether it's deadly. I don't look for whether they're going to have, be able to finish it in good shape. It just means that it is finishable. And oddly enough, while I have had the occasional party wipe, I have not had that many. But it does push players to the edge, so even like supposedly broken spells don't end up all that broken, because in order to take those broken spells, there are trade-offs. They're going to have to not take some spells that might be more utility spells in other games, but might come in critically important in the kind of game that I run. So there is that. Anyway, let's go down to holdings. And so it just gives you optional rules. It's rules to get characters to have spells in their spellbook. That's nice. Yeah, because it is pretty automatic in 5th edition otherwise. I don't want to edit it. Get the hell out. Get out. Okay, there we go. Holdings. As mentioned previously, strongholds, titles, owning property, and so on is used as big aspects of old school play. This is often done at level 10. My current 5th edition game right now is Blackridge Barony. They are level 5, and they have effectively their own stronghold. Okay, sorry, I had to make a note. Yeah, okay, so you've got rules for giving strongholds for great deeds. The problem with strongholds is this. I am currently using the Ultimate Kingdoms Guide from Legendary Games, which is a company that I used to really like, but not so much anymore. But one of the things about it is that, about any stronghold system, is that characters expect it to both have a starting point and to be able to develop it, and there's no one set of rules that does that very well. I have seen the Strongholds and Followers from Colville, and that book is nice for itself, but it's a little bit too abstract for me. I prefer to have more concrete evidence of a stronghold being useful. It's good for games that follow a more traditional 5th edition style rule set. I think it excels in that, but it's just not suited for my gameplay. The Ultimate Kingdoms book is based on the Pathfinder rules, and I'm using it simply because I know them. The Ultimate Kingdoms book and the Pathfinder rules for strongholds themselves are broken, and they will remain broken, and even the Ultimate Kingdoms rules don't fix them. They just make them more palatable. So I'm using them simply because I know them. So any sort of holding or stronghold rules is of benefit. Different types will benefit different games. Some people will prefer more abstract, some people will prefer more concrete, and some people will like to bust out the spreadsheets and start figuring out every little thing. So your mileage may vary. But here, this does not have stronghold rules for developing them. This simply has starting rules, where it starts, and what may happen each month. And that's fine, but that means you're going to have to develop your own. I would love to see this expanded to have like a development rules. And I can understand why they didn't. We're on page 14 of 15. We're almost done here. But it's nice to have a nice start. Travel. The chart below allows GMs to referee long distance travel. You've got your travel over land. Gives you encounters while traveling. It's just basically guidelines on creating hex crawls. And then new rules for exhaustion, except... Are those new rules, or is that just the exhaustion rules? Why do I keep looking back here? I ditched my 5th edition books. I got them somewhere. I don't know. Are these exhaustion rules similar to the ones that are in the player's handbook, or they adjust them? I guess I should look that up. Hold on. 5e SRD. Let me compare them to the standard exhaustion rules. What's funny is that I use exhaustion in a lot of my games, but the Black Ridge Barony one I haven't. Because nobody has taken it... Nobody has triggered exhaustion rules in that game. I think the most I used them for was for like a disease somebody had. Come on, let me look at this exhaustion. And so forgive me for not knowing the rules right off the top of my head.
I love when I type in a search term on a site that uses Google Site Search, and it fills me with a page of completely unrelated non-game terms from general Google search first, simply because they were paid for by ads. I look up exhaustion rules and I get like, can you sleep? Hold on, let me see. Why am I so tired? Symptoms of fatigue. Falling asleep during the day. Top excessive tiredness. Top excessive fatigue. I'm looking for a condition in 5th edition on a 5th edition site, Google. Fuck. Alright. Alright. Exhausted. Disadvantage on all non-attack rolls. Disadvantage on all attack rolls. Speed half. These are actually more forgiving. Oh my god. Oh, except for the death. You die faster, but these are actually generally more forgiving than the actual exhausted thing. That is funny. It's supposed to be more deadly, and is slightly more deadly, but in general it's actually more forgiving. Oh god, that's funny. Okay. We've made modifications to player characters. What about the monsters? Monster hit points. They have overly inflated hit points. This can make monsters into damage sponges and turn combat into a slog, which is generally the case, but I have found, because I have trained my players so well on really difficult encounters, that the damage sponge aspect very rarely comes into play. Because everybody knows when to save their stuff to alpha strike something now. And so I can put an entirely new creature together, and yet my players, for the most part, some groups still take some adjustment. For my players instinctively know when to alpha strike, and it's getting frustrating. I think it's a tell of me as a DM that they can I can put a completely new creature together, and they can have a guesstimate on whether they need to alpha strike it or not. Anyway, yeah, point understood for most groups though. Most groups are going to find 5th edition monsters a damage sponge. Yeah. Most creatures, even monsters, do not want to die. Most foes do not want to fight to the death and will attempt to retreat if they can. Another thing, I have my monsters retreat, and my players rarely let them. So often, unless I throw a massive horde of monsters at my group, they will sit there unless they're really wounded. They will have to run on turn 1 those monsters if any of them want to get away. So I think that's mostly because my group knows. You know what, I just bitched about it, and I just realized
that they've got reasons for me not having monsters, not letting my monsters run away. I take that back. On retrospect, it's my bad. Because I've had monsters alert other monsters. I've had monsters grab an item and run off with it. I've had monsters drag a wounded NPC away. So yeah, or a wounded PC away. So yeah, I guess that's my bad. Okay, I'm sorry. My players will eventually watch this. I'm sorry that I blame you for not letting my monsters run away. I understand. I understand. Okay. Alright. Dungeons need to be changed slightly in aesthetics and dressing as well as function. Modern games seem to have moved away from needing certain modes of thinking in regards to dungeon exploration. Gone are the days of someone in the party using graph paper to map their descent into the darkness of catacombs. Oh god, I love having a mapper. I love having a mapper, but none of my groups have anybody that wants to be the mapper. Oh god, I love having a mapper. And gone are the days of roaming monster tables and mega dungeons with labyrinthine passages riddled with traps and sometimes instant death. Not really. I put them in my dungeons. Instead, dungeons are rooms to have combat encounters and are connected to straightforward trapless hallways. Yeah, I can understand that for like main Wizard of the Coast style dungeons, but I gotta admit, man, I don't see that in a lot of the dungeons that I look at it online because, well, mostly because I use OSR stuff a lot. But I guess it just depends on who you're looking at. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to get this like dungeon doctor thing together, so I can go ahead and show how to make interesting dungeons that don't necessarily follow like the 5-room design paradigm or whatever. Anyway, so yeah, this is just basically saying keep a turn order when exploring dungeons. Have movement and actions function like combat turn orders. Yeah, I do that for the most part on mine. So, and it bites me when I don't. Like when I do turn order and when exploring my dungeons, it works out very well. I recommend it. As soon as I forget and I let them just go willy-nilly through the dungeon, that's when it bites me. So yeah, good advice. Good advice. That was Crips and Serpents 5th edition and a little miniature guide on making your 5th edition games more old school. I like it. I think it does the job. A couple things I could have tweaked in there, but overall it's pretty good little product. So damn, I am currently how long has this stream been going? I am almost an hour in and I have covered 2 freaking products. Oh, and I've got 14 of these. Well, you know what? I'm just going to graze through a couple of these. This is another 5th edition one called The Haunting of Windmire. It is a free product on DriveThruRPG. Give me one moment to make sure it is still, in fact, free. The Haunting of Windmire is a 5th edition product from AO Publications. The town of Windmire is a quiet place full of people who prefer simple life and dislike surprising outsiders. However, a dark force has arisen beneath the village. 1 week after a comet was seen, strange events began happening. Alien creatures and corpses have been found in the wood, massacred cattle in the fields, and then a body washes up on shore. The body count is rising and the townsfolk are scared. Who will be the next to turn up dead? What the fuck? Yeah, I hope I don't get copyright struck for like the half a second of video that just played when I accidentally clicked back on YouTube and clicked on one of the recommended freaking videos. Which I didn't mean to click on. Oh. Anyway, here's a link for this. Here's a link for this. The Haunting of Windmire, and I will get this. What the hell is it? I literally just looked at it. Haunting of Windmire. Okay. Now they have a player's handout, but then they also have a DM's guide. So it is an adventure. It is 22 pages long. I'm not going to cover this in detail. I am going to skim this. Let's take a look at the cover art. First impression, cover art's awesome. Not entirely clear that it's a 5th edition product right now. I'd probably put some sort of 5th edition logo or something on it. Excellent cover art. Love it. Production quality is good. I don't know if these are clip art. I don't know if these are like stock art or something. Have to take a look at that. Let's just take a look. You got adventure overview, running the module, investigating the scenes, because it is an investigation-based module. I love those. You got a area defense thing. You got a dungeon crawl, and then you've got various environmental encounters, and then a list of the town residents. Let's take a look. They got the intro. A dark force has arisen beneath the town of Windmire. I just read that. The town of Windmire is a quiet place full of people who prefer a simple life and dislike surprises and outsiders. It lies on the shores of Arachnid Lake. I just realized I just complained about this thing picking up audio, and I realized I've got my desktop audio turned off. Good. It lies on the shores of Arachnid Lake, a large freshwater lake which freezes over in the winter and makes for perfect ice skating. The town is overseen by its mayor, Anara Lightfoot. You've got an utterly alien entity beyond comprehension. Nobody is completely certain what the entity is. So the structure is starts in the morning on the first day, giving the party several hours to investigate before they're supposed to meet in Selman. The party begins in town, waking up in the morning to find the strange letter from Selman. During breakfast, a young man runs into town, shouting at the sheriff, which follows him to find the murdered body of Lern Moz by the southern edge of the lake. And then you investigate to find out what happened to the person who was murdered, and gather information. After a short day of investigation, you go to meet Selmond, who brought you in, and then find him murdered. Oh, that's neat. That's actually really neat. Okay. So running this module is designed for between 3 and 5 characters or first to second level. I love this. Of the 5th edition of the world's greatest role-playing game. You got to put that in there when you're using SRD stuff, because they say, oh, you can refer to it as this. I prefer to refer to it as the world's most widely marketed role-playing game. Cosmic horror adventure. This one which characters' sanity is just as at risk of their physical safety. Engaging with this large-scale threats are enough to push a character's mind to its limits. To complement this theme, a temporary madness is used in this adventure. Encounters are tuned to be deadly. Try to play up the horror theme if possible. There's your trigger warning. It deals with topics of insanity and madness. And regardless, it's important to ensure that players are well informed of this theme. Yeah, I guess some people could have problems with it. See, I'm just used to playing with adults. And I mean that mentally, not physically. And there's just so many children out there. And I mean that mentally, again, not physically. So it's very important to understand that when you run something that requires you to separate yourself from your characters and to deal with topics that might be sensitive, that you only play with adults and not children. Oh God, do we literally have a warning about character death? No, okay, good, thank God. I was about to no. Because counters are turned to be deadly, there's a very real chance of one or more characters dying during the adventure. This is by design, but again, this reality should be communicated to players before they sit down to play. Yeah, no, I'm cool with that one. Yeah, that's cool. Because I tell my players all the time that they're gonna die, and their characters might die too. This adventure is fundamentally structured as a sandbox. It likely has an ending scene, but can be changed. I actually kind of like this so far, even just from the write-up. This looks good. I don't want to spend all night on it, though. I've already been at this for an hour, and there's only like item number 3. This adventure is greatly enhanced by providing each player character at least one NPC in town who their character would have some sort of relationship with. I love doing this, too. But you got to build it up. You can't just say, hey, you know this person. You got to give them like a reason. You're like, everybody knows somebody in this town, and they're like, oh, okay. And I say, you know this because like they went to your birthday party way back when, or you know this because you sold it. And you let them interact for a little while, and then you kill the NPC. But if you just say, oh, this person that you knew 3 years ago, you just found them dead, and they're like, oh, who was that? And you have to do it through background. Yeah, then it doesn't quite click. So you got to give them a chance to, interact. And unfortunately, with something on a short timeline like this, that can be difficult. You got a rumor chart, which is good. You got the opening scene. Party begins their morning when a young man runs in, shouting for the sheriff. And here it is. Here's the first design problem, which is actually not too much of a design problem. All of this, like this part, like this, and like everything from here, like to the end of the module, relies on this part right here. All right. So, whoops. If the party decides to follow as well. So, somebody runs into town calling for the sheriff. The sheriff gets up, runs out. Others follow him. If the party decides to follow as well, then they'll see Bozer and Mose discover the dead body. And if they don't, you know what happens? Then you close the PDF and you get another adventure. And that's the only problem I have with that intro. It's like, yeah, if the party follows. Oh, thanks for providing a useful service to the TTRPG community, J1066. Thank you for being a loyal and long-time viewer. I can only hope that I continue to make this and little reviews like this and my RPG News Roundup a little bit informative. It is something that I enjoy doing, and I intend to continue on for a while. But thank you for your super chat. Anyway, let's take a look at this. Now that I've ascertained that the party will in fact follow up on this and not just leave town and make you go prepare another adventure. After Bozer and Mose left the scene, the sheriff Pelendal has begun investigating. The party is likely to be questioned by her if any of the members are not from town. Otherwise, they'll be able to ask her a few questions before she ushers them off, and then it is up to the players to investigate. The sheriff can point the party to the injured animals at Copper Cobble Ranch. The party can follow the Renix, Risk Copper Cobble, or Father Kiz back on the Farm Rancher Temple. DC 10 medicine check reveals that Learn Mose was strangled. DC 15 reveals that a tentacle marks on her neck from the scum that killed her. Do scums have tentacles? Do scums have tentacles? Hold on a sec. God damn it! This is why these things take so long for me to look. Cause I keep getting derailed. Well, Sister Gladys clearly has tentacles. Okay, scum. What book are scum in? Give me a minute. Do I still have the PDFs? Don't make me get an actual book to look it up. It's been a while since I've had one. The last one I did was in freaking October, and I've meant to do this is why I've got 14 things to look at tonight. I meant to do this back in October, and my schedule has been a living hell for 2 months straight. So this month I started in going, I can go ahead and get some stuff done, and it's a living hell again. And I've got issues I'm sitting here. I got issues regarding my elderly folks and stuff that I'm needing to follow up on. So I have been in a lot of stress, man. So I want to point out the fact that I have been missing a few Let's Play episodes. After I'm done with this tomorrow, I'm going to finish recording some more Let's Plays and get them up. And then I've got the review I'm doing for Lankmar DCC RPG that I got to finish up. So those should be done sometime early next week, and we'll get back on track after that. But wow, everything, what the hell? You know what? I'm looking up a scum. I'm just going to assume that scum have tentacles. I'm not going to spend the rest of the night looking up a monster. Okay, so this is nice. It gives you multiple ways that the players can branch out and investigate things. I like that. And then they detail each individual place in town, give you a quick rundown on the encounter there, as well as what clues the party can find in that area. That's a very nice way to set up an investigation kind of thing, and I think it's done well here. You've got a mix of skills. Okay, so you've got mostly persuasion. You got mostly persuasion. But aside from that, you do have a mix of skills. Like you've got medicine and survival and persuasion and persuasion and persuasion and persuasion. Persuasion. Investigation. Oh, there's an investigation check. Then you've got a survival check. That's nice. Oh, here we go. Actually, this has a combat encounter. Riley Cobbercopple spends much of her time on her farm. She has a number of employees. She's not doing any heavy lifting now. Depending on the time of day, the party may see Father Kiz as he stops by to check on his patient. You've got a survival check that can track a creature that attacked cattle back into the Lorien Woods. This is the Chul, or pair of Chul, that have taken up residence there. So all of these so far have been abomination-type creatures, or monstrosities. In the Outer Shacks, the party can meet and potentially hire a Dwarven tracker. Can take them to... hold on a second. So a persuasion check with the tracker that you can potentially hire can point them toward Nairin regarding his nightmares in relationship with Lerny, who was the person that got killed, right? That was the person that got killed, right? Oh, I missed this. I'm sorry, I'm trying to speed read this stuff, but it's not particularly. This is getting complex. I actually like this. This is a good investigation adventure. So you've got somebody called Sissy Gladys, which is the hag at the end. Then you've got the site of the murder itself that you can inspect, where Lerny walked along after meeting up with Nairin, her romantic interest. She took a detour home and was unfortunately ambushed by the Scums. And then you've got Selmond, who you then go to talk to. Selmond, the person that brought the party in, but then you go talk to him, but he's not there because he's already been killed. This is actually really good. Then you come back after the investigation. You find a lead towards a person named Tithry, who is... I haven't read this yet, but I'm guessing Tithry is potentially like a rival to the woman that got killed. Maybe. Well, she's mad. This is good. Actually, I'm gonna. It's got a minor dungeon crawl. It's only like what 4 or 5 rooms. It's not even a dungeon crawl. It's like a decrepit prison. And then you've got some encounters out in the woods. In terms of production values, like I know the illustrations are a little goofy. I know the map is a little bit off, but it's still better than a lot I've seen. Production quality on this is good. I like this. It does have kind of a more classic. Whoops! It's got more of a classic creepy thing than cosmic horror. Cosmic horror doesn't mean just slap tentacles on everything, but it's got kind of almost like a fairy tale horror style feel to it, even though it uses monsters with tentacles and claws. I kind of like this. I'm gonna wrap this one up, and I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next one. But this has been the Haunting of Windmire. That's a good one. I've already linked it in there. That's nice. I actually recommend that one. What's next? Oh my god. Spooky Spider Worshippers. Let's make sure this is still free. Or not free, but pay what you want. And remember, if it is pay what you want and you do end up using them at your table, remember that you can always go back and then buy it again and actually give the author some money. So when I use like a pay what you want product, I often will go back and like throw them a buck or two. So yeah, Spooky Spider Worshippers from Benjen Games, and it basically covers spider worshipping creatures. And I peered through this. It's not that long, so I'll link it. There it is. Pay what you want product. And you immediately have a kind of B-movie style horror queen on the cover. I gotta think that I picked this one up back right after I did my October stream and then never got around to it, because this has kind of like a Halloween kind of vibe to it, and I love the cover art. Arachnid Devotion, so it basically covers okay, they've got other horror themed things from benjin.com. So this is basically a monster thing, and I'm not going to cover every one, but I will like breeze through and show. It's got nice abstract artwork. I've seen better abstract artwork, but it gets the job done, and it's supposed to be creepy Halloween-y. That's cool. You got a spider sorcerer, who is just basically your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, except he can cast, like literal Spider-Man, but he can cast stuff. Okay, that's cool. Challenge rating 5. I don't see anything out of place with the stuff. His hit points are a little light for a 5th level challenge rating thing, but he is a spellcaster, so that is understandable. He's got bite in giant spider form only, as well as a poisonous touch. Does poison damage, pretty heavy on the poison damage, so the dwarves are just going to rip this guy up. You got Servant of the Spider, who is a challenge rating 1/2. Pretty standard for a 1/2. Good hit point layout for that. You've got a standard armor class for that. Advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened, which almost never comes into play in my games, but take that what you will. Does have minor spellcasting abilities, but except for web, these are all abilities that are useful for setting up a story, which is good. He does have multi-attack at a half challenge rating thing, so that can be useful. In my opinion, first level characters get off light on having things attack them multiple times, so I do like low challenge rating monsters that can attack twice or more. Poisonous farting zombie. It's an undead. It's a zombie. It's got undead fortitude. It can claw. It can slam. And in response to being hit by a range or melee attack, it can fart. Are you 3, whoever designed this? Are you 3 years old? Okay. Any creature other than the zombie within 5 feet of the zombie must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or be poisoned until the start of the creature's next turn. Okay. Tentacle Monster. It's not even a creature. It's just generic Tentacle Monster. I don't know what I expected from something called Spooky Spider Worshippers. Half of these are not spider worshippers, nor are they spooky, but it does have a Halloween-y theme. It's fun. I'll give it that. The monster covers itself in anything it's wearing and carry or a magical illusion that makes it look like another creature of its general size and humanoid shape. When it is subjected to poison damage, it takes no damage and regains a number of hit points equal to the poison damage dealt, which is really good when you can use it in conjunction with something else that uses poison. I like that. I really do. It does have a poison touch. So if you needed to, you could like have like 3 of these things and have one stay back and just hit other... Like this is something I do sometimes when I see a creature that heals when it's exposed to its same elemental damage, is I'll put like 1 in the background and then 2 in the front and have the 2 in the front fight while the 1 in the back just hits the others with its poison damage and heals them. Or if it's like a fire-based thing with their fire damage or whatever, to heal them up. And then when they aim at the one healing, then the other 2 can turn around. They always die in the end, but it's ends up aggravating to my players, and why be a DM if you can't aggravate your players? Not all the time, just from time to time. Spider demon. It's just a demon that looks like a spider. Warlock of the Spider. Oh my god, this is like is this like Eigen or whatever from Dark Souls? The Warlock's innate spellcasting ability is Charisma, with a big egg sac on his face. And this just gives him... He's just a warlock that does spidery things. There's nothing outstanding here. There's nothing bad. It's just... Okay. Oh, yeah. So that was Spooky Spider Worshippers. I gotta admit, that cover art sells it more than the contents. I love the B-movie aesthetic. They could have picked a harsher looking thing. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. Spooky, not the best thing I've covered all night. Not the worst. The C domain. Let's see how this is. Let me make sure it's still pay what you want. I'm gonna go over this one real quick. This is just a domain, the C domain from the Realm Scribe. And for the record, the Realm Scribe has a lot of these things out where they cover just like a single domain or a single creature. At least they did last I looked. So the Realm Scribe, the C domain, it's pay what you want product. Link will be in the chat. And it's just a cleric domain. It gives you domain spells. What domain spells they give you? Create or destroy water. Never going to cast it, but I mean, if you're in a desert or something, you might. I can think I can count on like one hand the number of characters that I've run stuff for that actively use Create Water. And I try to get them to do it, but they just don't. The Sea's Bounty. No, that's a power. Sorry, Create or Destroy Water or Fog Cloud. Fog Cloud is kind of useful sometimes. Gust of Wind or Misty Step. I guarantee you Misty Step's going to be the one that they use. Gaseous Form or Water Breathing. Probably Gaseous Form, although Water Breathing would be super useful in some of my campaigns. Control Water or Ice Storm. Ice Storm. I love it when they give these domains and you get one spell that's almost never going to be used and one spell that's going to be always used. Next one, Commune with Nature or Cone of Cold. So that basically boosts a cleric. It gives a cleric some nice AoE spells. Bonus proficiency with scimitars, tridents, navigators, tools, vehicles, water, and the survival skill. That's actually a nice little package. Starting at first level, you learn to call upon the ocean to throw your enemies off balance. You can use your bonus action to summon a crashing wave to knock your enemy off their feet and force a creature you can see within 10 feet to make a strength saving throw, causing that creature to take bludgeoning damage and be knocked prone on a failed save. So you just conjure a wave out of freaking nothing? I mean, that's a useful ability. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but that's a useful ability. I mean, I'd play a character that used it. Don't know that I'd play them for very long, but I'd play them. Starting at second level, the cleric can use the Channel Divinity to take part of the bounty of the ocean, summoning fish to feed and sustain their allies. So you basically create food and water. Great. Like, as an ability. So, get it straight. You can create water at first level, and then at second level, your Channel Divinity creates water. Not only water, it's clean and drinkable, but tastes slightly salty, so it's brackish water. It completely renders that first level Create or Destroy Water redundant, except for the destroy part, I guess. Born of the Sea, 6th level, you gain the following benefits. You gain resistance to cold damage, it's very nice. You gain a swim speed equal to your walking speed and can breathe under. Do clerics get good stuff at 6th level? I haven't played a 5th edition cleric. And all the people that play 5th edition clerics in my game just take life cleric. Or except war cleric. Chi, one of my players, takes war cleric like all the time. But I'll have to look at how that balances with stuff, because that resistance to cold is nice. The other stuff I could hit or miss, because if you're not near water, it's not going to matter. But if you're not near water, why would you take the sea domain? If you're not running, if you're in the desert, you wouldn't take the sea domain, just as a matter of principle. You got Divine Strike. That's pretty straightforward. One with the waves. You gain resistance to acid, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks. While you are transformed into a massive elemental creature, and you can do it for 1 minute. That's actually good. It's not a bad domain. I think it might take a little more balancing. I think it's a little bit unbalanced compared to some domains I've seen. The spells are, for the most part, really one-sided. It's really kind of a more combat-oriented cleric, and the combat skills, the combat abilities it gets are actually very nice. I don't think they're way overpowered, but I think it is a little bit unbalanced compared to what I've seen. Not with clerics, but like with similar casters. Because I just looked at the, as I said, I'm not familiar, aside from War and Life clerics, I'm not familiar with a lot of the more obscure cleric domains. All right, well, that was the C domain. Next, it's just What Crooked Roots? 15 folk horror encounters for 5th edition. Okay. Let me take a look at this one. I want to make sure it is indeed Pay What You Want from Cassie Mothwin. Let me go ahead and pop it open. It actually comes with both a PDF, a text-only version, and separately the art for it. But the art is, well, you'll see. So the cover art is good. And what this is basically a collection of folk horror encounters or folk horror inspired encounters. I don't necessarily know the background on this. I'll put the link in the chat. Let's take a look then. Let's see. Each of these is a separate encounter. I'm not going to look at each one specifically, but I will breeze through a few. 1. You've been living in an isolated village for 5 years, Westerbrook. You don't remember how you came to be here. You recall feeling weak when you regained consciousness under the careful eyes of the villagers. After recovering, you decided to stay. Westerbrook is a completely self-sustaining farming community and a nice change from adventuring. How would you know if you don't remember how you got there? Your cottage is comfortable and quiet. You're surrounded by fields of wheat and beyond that, the dark woods, a twisted, overgrown forest that no one is allowed to enter, except on special occasions. That's where we join you. You're tasked with escorting a basket of bread down the path that appeared just last night. It weaves from the center of the village, past the wheat fields, and disappears into the shadows of the dark woods. This must be done every 10 years, the village elder informed you. You're the strongest, another leader said. We shall mend your armor, spoke your neighbor. Your questions about safety and origin are met with sly smiles before the subject changes. Where will you be taking the bread? The path will show you. What if you get lost? Try not to leave the path. The path may try to trick you. So you get like a mission right off the bat. And OBS just dropped me and put me back on. It's been doing this all night. I think it may be an issue with freaking Comcast. Their connections for me have been terrible. Sorry, I'm answering a question somebody put me. All right, the detect magic problem. This basically lets you put a bar on detect magic, or actually gives you reasons how to adjudicate detect magic so it doesn't ruin these encounters. So that is actually something that's useful. Player consent. The front page has several content warnings. Share these with your players and get consent from your group before running anything within these pages. Yeah, because hard do you... I give a lot of shit to... Actually, does this have... This doesn't even have consent. Give me a second. What the hell is... I'm sorry. I got confused for a moment. Because it says the front page has several content warnings. But I don't see any content warnings. I don't see any content warnings. Are you telling me that you want to go ahead and tell me to get consent from my players to do things that are disturbing in a horror game when they know they're going to be in a horror game? Because you tell them. I got no problem with that. You tell them. And you tell them, hey, this may be hard, may have uncomfortable things. It may include vaguely this or this. You don't tell them exact. Well, some people say, you need to tell them exact. But I say it may include elements of like mental disturbance and possibly depictions of certain things. And you make sure they're cool with it. Or you know them beforehand, like I do with mine before I run your horror games. But are you shitting me? You're going to tell me to share these pages and then don't give me the content warnings? Like, if you're going to make me do it, at least give me the damn warnings. The hell, man? Did somebody drop the ball on that? I'm legitimately not seeing the content warnings. Ha! I'm not seeing it. Oh, dude. I know. I see somebody that dropped the ball. Should have given me a content warning on this. I'm a modophobe. It's a fucking moth. Ugh. Anyway. There we go. Hold on. Here we go. I'm blind. Here it is. Blood and body horror. Body horror and blood. Allusions to cannibalism. Allusions to... When is allusions to pregnancy? Okay. I know a couple of people that run off when you mention that their girlfriend might be pregnant. Sure. Allusions to stalking. Yeah, I can see where that could be troubling. Animal hunting and harvesting. I'm sorry, I don't know anybody from Twitter. Self-harm in a ritualistic setting. Admittedly, I know somebody has a problem with that. Cult-like behavior. Funeral for a child. That's just sad. No, some of these are cool, but some of these, what the hell, man? Allusions to pregnancy? Sorry. You're pregnant. It's all... Now, these are actually well written, though. Look, the path leads straight into the heart of the dark woods, and once you nervously set foot over the threshold, you wonder why you were afraid to begin with. The air is crisp, and the bread in your basket emits a pleasing fragrance. You walk to the sound of birds chirping and forest creatures following above from branch to branch. The leaves tumble gently, leaving warm hues trailing from the sky to the ground. Lost in your thoughts with the afternoon sun above you, you realize that a strange sense of quiet has taken root around you. Pausing, you glance around, and you see it. Off the shoulder of the path to your right, a barrier of sorts rests between you and the tightly packed forest, like a wooden fence. The strange posts are taller than you, and the trees behind them seem to be spilling over the top, as if reaching for the path. But that's not what disturbs you. The timber posts in connection to the fence are all shaped like body parts. Arms, fingers, a pelvis, and a face crushed between two sections that look to be in a peaceful sleep. You take out the dagger and carefully make your way to the barricade, curiosity tugging at your cloak. Holding the bread basket behind you, you nick a portion of the fence and it bleeds. The face animates, eyes struggling to lock onto you from its wedged-in position. It releases a shriek of monster sounds that send you running. It's well written. This is creepy shit, man. That's what it's supposed to look like. There's your face. There's your unsettling eyes that are in the knotwork. I've used that effect before. Got a character that has that in his entire tavern. Now, what does it do? Here's the thing. So that's just the intro, but then you've got the actual encounters. A peaceful ghost helps the characters find their way out of an encroaching forest, so the encounter is of a ghost that can lead them out of where they found themselves. A grotesque and long fence keeps an unknown threat at bay, so that must be the fence that you encounter. Yeah, and this is exactly the encounter I just read. Ropes of braided hair tie sections together. This is neat. I gave this person shit, right? But it's actually really well written. I don't know really well, but it's actually well written. If the characters scale the fence, trees try to grapple and pull them deeper into the woods, constricting and attacking. Since every tree behind the fence is a trap monster mechanically, the party is outnumbered easily. The trees cannot move, but they can hand someone around, damaging them in the process, which is something that I sometimes do with minor enemies, is I'll have them grapple and then drag somebody in so that the rest can start beating on them. It's put to use very well here. You get opportunity attack range while investigating the fence, but don't cross it. The trees leave them be. To up the difficulty and entice characters to explore, you may give the keys access to thaumaturgy. The trees use the spell to mimic whispers or a small child in order to lure them across the boundary. It's actually not... Hold on a second. Let me take a look. Do they have the stats for these things? These are the encounters, but where's the monsters? Where's like the mechanical stats for these things? I'm looking. So these are all... No, here we go. You've got combat stats for something in here, the Groat Man. Most of these don't have combat stats because they're supposed to be avoided. They're like almost all of them are like... They're like skill challenges. So you're more apt to try to avoid them. Let's take a look at another one real quick. Let's take a look at the what was the one with it that had, what was it, pregnancy? It's this as a warning, content warning. you might mention a pregnant person. Oh, actually, let's see. The party encounters a twisted tree with pinkish fleshy fruit. The limbs of the tree slouch with blue-gray leaves. Cutting open a piece of fruit reveals seeds that look exactly like human teeth. The fruit tastes fine. After 1d6 days, the tree dies and the fruit rots. Eating a piece of the fruit... Why would you eat a fruit with human teeth for its seeds? I guess? Sure, why not? Roll 1d6 to determine what happens. You can get a good berry spell. The player tastes blood and they wipe their mouth. They smear blood on their palms. For the next 24 hours, their breath smells like a body decaying. Oh, holy shit. Okay, now I know why they had the sensations of a baby kicking where the player's womb would be, even if they identify as male. What the hell? Yet where your OBS just dropped me again and brought me back. I don't know what's going on with my connection. Yeah, okay. The sensations of a baby kicking where the player's womb would be, even if they identify as male. What you identify has nothing to do with this. Like, even if you go by that, there's certain facts, okay? Womb would be. What if you identify with female and you had one, but it was removed? And all of a sudden that makes this non-inclusive. What about that? You didn't think about that, did you? Whoever wrote this. No, but aside from that, it's good. It's not bad. It's not bad. These are kind of creepy things. All right, yeah. That was What Crooked Roots. I'm not going to go through all of them. They're decently written. They're not combat encounters though. They're encounters that are made to creep you out and try to run away. That is all they are, except for the Groat Man that actually has somebody hunt you down. I give that maybe like a 4 out of 5, maybe like a 3.5 or a 4 out of 5. It's not a bad product. I don't mind it. Where am I going to next? Nightmare at Dodman's Point. Nightmare at Dodman's Point. Is this from, no, this is from Watcher DM. Watcher DM, don't they have a YouTube channel? Well, I said it was from Watcher DM, but it looks like it's from Monster Brew DM. Okay, it's an 8-page adventure, Nightmare at Dodman's Point. It looks like it's 4 to 6 characters, 3rd to 4th level. It's a pay-what-you-want product for 5th edition. I'm going to put the link in here, and we're going to breeze through it real quick, because it has already been quite some time, and I have not really... got even halfway through this. Alright, so your standard 5th edition layout. You got a backstory. Many believe the mysterious dark ship that brings nightmares and death wherever it goes a fable, until it showed up off the coast of Dodman's Point. Run aground by a storm, it now sits under the cliffside of the village resides. That's when the nightmares begin. Yeah, what kind of goober do you have to be to like run a ghost ship? Like you're an undying ghost on a ship. I'm assuming that's what this is. But let's say it doesn't. But let's say You are the captain of a dark ship that is fabled to bring nightmares and death, and you run it aground. Like, what does that say about your piloting abilities? What are you going to do? Blame the pilot on duty? You're going to be like, he's there too. You're all trapped on an undead ship, and you ran it aground. Good game. Gives you a rundown of the important NPCs and characters. You got the Mayor of Dudman's Point, the Bishop Blackbane, who was once infamous adventurer turned pirate captain who went missing as he sailed headlong into the eye of a ferocious storm. And that explains why he ran things aground, because he's a shit captain. The bishop was hideously transformed into a flesh golem. You got Morgana Grendel, the mysterious dark woman, a passenger once taken on by the bishop, was in fact a night hag. She is the cause of the nightmares and mysterious deaths that have been following the townsfolk of Dodman's Point. So it's a night hag attack. Okay. So Dodman's Point calls for aid. A messenger bursts in, asks the players for aid. To seek aid, Dodman's Point is in grave danger. The woman in black is driving us mad. And then they see the signal fires. As you travel several miles from the coast, you look up the west and you notice several signal fires ablaze over a coastal town. And I like this because it's a lead-in that does not have the adventurers just arriving there. The adventure hooks have the party actually called in. That's nice. And it gives them... It kind of comes on to their sense of heroism by saying this woman is driving us mad, she's coming to our sleep, but it leaves it open for them to just be hired to come help too. I like that. Dodman's Point is a typical fishing village. You've got the idea that all shops are closed, so that minimizes wandering around and just looking at things. You've got the ability to get supplies from the mayor, who gives you a briefing on the witch in question. He is sleep deprived, as are most people. You get the western cliff edge. It's very, very linear. But it's not meant to be complex. It's linear because you have a problem. Your players go to solve it. That's all there is. You don't need a bunch of side quests and such on this particular one. You get the Bond Adventure, which is just a ship. Have I seen that map before? Is that map in like the DM's guide? Is one of the sample maps of 5th edition? Or am I just like losing it? I could have sworn I'd seen this map before. Anyway, you got a wrecked ship. Got the passengers' quarters. It's just a dungeon crawl. It's just a dungeon crawl on a haunted ship. You got hidden treasure that does require an investigation check to find. You got a second treasure in the med bay, which is just some potions. You got an encounter, Gibbering Mouther, Shadow Lemure. Oh, that's harsh. I like it. For a small to mid-level character, so you've got your Gibbering Mouther, who's like wandering along, right? And then you got 4 Lemures, which are like the low-end demons or whatever. They're not individually strong, but you're encountering them all while this Gibbering Mouther is doing its babble thing, waiting in the corner. My God, if this thing keeps disconnecting, I'm like legitimately angry at my ISP right now. Okay. So as I was saying, you got this Gibbering Mouther in a room with 4 Lemures. So the party will have to decide whether to take the Lemures out or just let them nickel and dime them, or to take the Gibbering Mouther out, who's going to be distracting them with his babble. And then you can have the Shadow pick, because the Shadow is going to be hidden in a corner unless it's brightly lit, because this is darkness there. That Shadow is going to be next to invisible. And then you have the Shadow come up and start like tagging people with low strength just to get them down real quick.
That's I love that. That's like the first serious combat encounter in there, and it's brutal. Love it. Passage down leads to 2 closets and 3 dretch. That's not terrible. It's not as brutal as the. The hell, man! Comcast, you're screwing with me. You keep disconnecting me. I don't know. Has this been watchable? Have I been losing connection and dropping a lot, or is it just freezing up from time to time? I need to know so that I can go ahead and call Comcast later and bitch them out. You got a flesh golem in the combat stern. It's only a flesh golem. At low level, it could be rough, but not as rough. But this night hag encounter. You got a night hag, Morgana Grendel, carrying out her twisted plot to harvest the souls of the living. So you've just got a night hag in a box with 2 very rare magic items. So she's got a heartstone, a soul bag, and then a manual of golems, which can let the party make their own golem. That's not too bad. Although look at this. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I mean, the fact that it's happening at all is annoying to me, but I was like, if it's not too bad, it's not too bad, and then the thing freezes again. What I like about this is that, check this out. It is designed for 3rd to 5th level characters. That means those characters are going to have spells of spell levels of up to level 3. And it gives them the ability to get a manual of golems that can't be used until they have at least 2 5th level spell slots. A creature that can't use a manual of golems and attempts to read it takes 6d6 psychic damage. On a good roll, you can have the party take down this night hag. Yeah, it might be. It's just frustrating because I'll be like in the middle of a rant or of a particular discussion, right? And it'll pop up that it's disconnected, and then it'll say reconnecting for like 2 or 3 seconds, and I have no idea how much of what I just said didn't go through. But look at this. So you're like 5th level, right? Let's say you're at the top end for this particular adventure. You're 5th level. You've got 5. Well, let's say you're not a fighter. You're just like your generic wizard or whatever, or your bard or whatever. You've got 5d6 hit points, which is actually 46 plus 6. You kill this person, this night hag. You've probably got like 3 or 4 party members up, and then there's this ornate book there. And you walk over there, and since you're a modern player, you're thinking, hey, I can just look at this and see. So you pop it open and you read it. And because there is no way for a 5th level character to have 2 5th level spell slots open, even if you're a spellcaster, you take 6d6 psychic damage, and that can drop you right there. Well, it can drop you to unconscious. 5th edition is a little bit more survival. I would love to see somebody drop from that. I don't think that's a bad adventure. It could use some more art, but in terms of presentation, it's a quick, linear, relatively one-shot adventure. That's Nightmare at Dodman's Point. That's not too bad. It's not too bad. So how long has it been going? I've been going on an hour and 45 minutes. An hour and 45 minutes. And I am only now at the last of my 5th edition selections. All right. It is called The Devil's Mage from Niznox Speaks. And I will put, it is a pay what you want product. I will put the link in the chat. And let's pop it open. The Devil's Maze. This is an 8-page adventure with a nice little diabolical cover that would have got it so much flack back in the 80s. A mini adventure for level 9 characters. 1,000 years ago, Nerzakon the Traveler built a sanctum from which he could ponder the mysteries of the multiverse. Within the sanctum, the Archmage opened portals to other planes and enlisted the help of a powerful fiend to repel intruders. This was foreordained when his parents named him Nerzakon the Traveler. Though Nerzakon hasn't been seen for centuries, his sanctum, now known as the Devil's Maze, still stands. Can the characters survive the maze long enough to find the portal they seek? So yes, a mini adventure with an evil wizard's maze. Okay. Straightforward, simple enough. Character hooks have you coming to the maze to seek a way to travel to another plane of existence. So it's basically like, hey, this maze is a gate. You want to get to another plane? Go to it. Do it. You can spend some information tracking. It gives you ideas on the maze's history. Oh, God. Open gaming license. There is ye old generic map. Is that Dyson Logos? That's a generic Dyson Logos map. Okay. It's a maze style map. Doesn't even have a lot of rooms. It's got some encounters. I mean, this is for what, 9th level? So you right off the bat, you got a DC 12 Intelligence Arcana check for at 9th level. You're probably going to succeed on that 75% of the time. Requires a performance check to do a sad story to the woman, the primordial. On a failed performance check, on a success, the woman begins to weep. After several moments, her tears gather to form a pool on the ground before her. A creature that steps in the pool teleports to the elemental plane of water. So there is your water elemental portal right off the bat at number 2. That's like so let's say you need to go to the water elemental plane. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe this is 10-foot square, so that's 60 foot. You encounter it, boom, you're gone. You're off to the races. If you fail the performance check, the woman opens her mouth and releases a torrent of water. Each creature in the hall must make a strength saving throw or take 68 bludgeoning damage. Okay. Next one's a Zorn. Zorn's mouth when carved to form a concave depression. It says, feed me. If you toss a gemstone or other object, then it opens the floor into the elemental plane of earth with no consequence if you don't. Fire elemental. This is all... You've got an Efreet. And some illusionary creatures. Creatures in the balls are illusions. If released, a creature dissipates in a cloud of acid smoke, quickly expands to fill the room, taking poison damage to them. Freeing the Efreet does not release smoke. Instead, the magical flames leap to life inside the hearth, and an elemental fire portal approaches. That's actually the most dangerous one so far, simply because you can accidentally trigger it 2 or 3 times. Air portal, hold their breath, and it's just a ladder to the elemental plane. No contest needed. I don't like this one. It's weak. It's weak. And it uses a very generic map. I love Dyson Logos maps, but it's very generic. It's like pick the most generic one you could find. I don't like this one. You may as well just put like a box with some elemental gates in it, which is what this effectively is. Yeah, not a big fan of this one. Not a big fan of this one. For a dungeon, I mean, it's got like the hallmarks of an OSR dungeon crawl, but without any of the what do you call it? The fun. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna put that one away. Let's move on. Now on to OSR products. I absolutely know right now I'm not going to get to everything. Dragons of Legend and Worms of Folklore. So let's see what I can do here. Is this still pay what you want? It is. OSR Dragons of Legend and Worms of Folklore version 1.0. It's a pay what you want product from Other Stuff Games. It's a collection of dragons and worms from British mythology and the United Kingdom mythology from England, Wales, and Scotland. As well as rules to create base stats for monsters in OSR games. It's got 5 local legends of dragons from the British Isles. And I will put the link in the chat. Go ahead and pop that up there. And honestly, I looked at this one earlier when I was cruising through stuff. It's not that, doesn't have a lot in it. We're going to breeze through it real quick, but I can tell you right now, I like the presentation. OSR Dragons of Legend and Worms of Folklore from the British Isles. It's got 16 pages. You've got recommended companion games and supplements, that is OSR games in which these are particularly well suited for. You can see the Lion and Dragon right up top, which I actually really like. Fantastic Heroes and Witchery I've taken a look at, but I have not actually bothered to properly look. I'll have to watch Warlock, which was my favorite. Captain Warlock? I have not seen more than a couple episodes of Captain Warlock or Warlock. Is that some new thing? Or were you talking about these particular things that I've been looked at so far? Talking about these things that I've looked at so far, I would have to say my favorite's been Crips and Serpents 5th edition so far. As for the Dragons and Legends of Folklore, the Sockburn Worm, mostly because I've heard that legend before. British mythology is full of famous dragon slayers from Beowulf. Oh, Adventure was my favorite. Oh, of what I've covered? Or do you mean like... Yeah, of what I've covered so far. I mean, the 5th edition one wasn't a particular... The Haunting of Windmire had to be my favorite actual adventure that I covered. My favorite supplement I've covered so far right now is Crips and Serpents 5th edition. I haven't looked in detail the rest. I have looked at this particular one, though. Mostly because before I do these, just for some background, before I cover these, because I put them up on screen, I do pre-screen them to make sure that they don't contain any artwork that YouTube's going to hate me for. Because I have opened up one in the past that had just pages and pages of hand-drawn naked chicks, which is okay for OSR stuff. You gotta admit, the AD&D first edition stuff had a couple things in there, but when I'm going through on YouTube, YouTube's kind of funny about that, so I don't want to anger Fraulein Susan. Okay, the rules we use. All stats are tailored for OSR games. That is, rules set based on older editions of the original fantasy game. Got initiative, AC, movement, hit dice, that sort of thing. They are left somewhat vague so that you can plug them into any OSR system. You got your hit dice, saving throw table, because it uses not first edition, 0th edition style saving throws, which only had one saving throw. Take care, man. And as always, this will be available as a VOD on YouTube if you want to take a look at it later. It'll probably be on the list for a couple days since I'm running late on everything else. You got the bonus to hit. This number is just a bonus to hit. Just a standard flat bonus. So this is compatible with Lion and Dragon and Swords and Wizardry. Directly compatible. So it's just got art from suitably medieval looking paintings. Each one of these has the legend and then the creature. The red and white dragons of Wales. The image of the dragon is an integral part of Welsh identity, with the red dragon emblazoned on the country's flag as a symbol of Welsh pride and nationalism. This dragon, along with a white dragon, appear in British prose and Welsh mythology, as well as numerous tales, including some of the earliest accounts of the Celtic leader that we know as King Arthur. And indeed, that is where Camelot was supposedly set, or at the very least Tentacle Castle. As the tale goes, Vortigern, who was the High King before Uther, who was Arthur's father, and believed to be if I remember right, Vortigern, much like Pendragon, is more of a title than a name, and I believe it actually does have some sort of like root in history. Like there actually was a Vortigern. And the only reason that I vaguely know this is because I was doing research to try to write a book that was basically like Arthurian legend meets like Lovecraftian horror. I need to get back on that book. Anyway, back to the thing. Every night, the unseen forces, or as the tale goes, Vortigern tries to build a castle in Dinas Emeris. Every night, unseen forces demolish the castle walls and foundations. Vortigern consults his advisors, who tell them to find a boy with no natural father and to sacrifice him. Vortigern finds such a boy, who would later be identified as Merlin, who tells the king of the two dragons, and Vortigern excavates the hill, freeing them. They continue their fight, and the red dragon finally defeats the white dragon. The boy tells Vortigern that the white dragon symbolizes the Saxons, and that the red dragon symbolizes the native people of Vortigern. Clud and Clefis, or at least I am completely mispronouncing that. Another famous tale from the late 12th century details the important war between the native red dragon and the invading white dragon. In the story, the white dragon is so fearsome that its cries cause women to miscarry, and its very presence is enough to kill livestock and ruin crops. Determined to rid his kingdom of this menace, King Clud of Britain visits his brother Clefless in France, who tells the brother to prepare a pit filled with mead and cover it with cloth. After Clud, is it Clud or Cluth? I'm probably completely butchering that. I'm sorry, I'm not Welsh. Completes the task, the white dragon begins to drink from the pit and falls into a drunken stupor. With the monster asleep, Cluth capture, and I'm going to continue to try and I'm continue to butcher it. Captures the dragon and imprisons it in Dinas Emeris, a wooden hillock in Wales where Vortigern's story later takes place. So yeah, each of these has basically a historical account of the legend and then the stats for the creatures. And it's interesting because number one, it tells you how mythical dragons are in realistic fantasy or realistic medieval fantasy role-playing games. They are not just all like fire-breathing things. They are creatures with a variety of things. The red dragon and the white dragon and such are not terribly large. They are... Here we go. Look at this. These are not terribly large. They are large enough to cause problems. This dragon right here from medieval art is no larger than maybe a very large snake. The dragon of Loshki Hill, that's from Yorkshire. So yeah, it'd be Loshki. There's a lindworm. Lindworms are the sometimes they have limbs, sometimes they're just serpentine. They are poisonous. There we go. That's the next one. That's the Sockburn worm. That's the one that inspired Jabberwocky. Yeah, that's the one that inspired Jabberwocky. And it requires a certain falchion to go ahead and thing. It's a wyvern. It's a wyvern. Yeah, okay, this is a neat one. This is a neat one, even though it's made for more realistic historical fantasy role-playing games, and the stats are not terribly complex. This is a neat one just for the legends. The legends make this book. More dragons coming in the next update. Yeah, this is well worth taking a look at if you're into like historical medieval stuff, especially if you're running Lion and Dragon or something like that. The legends of this are nice. Let's look at the next one. Wreck of the Void Hatred. Let's see what this one has. Oh my god, I'm going to be up here all night, aren't I? This is a pay-what-you-want product from R. Rook Games, a Wreck of the Void Hatred, a pamphlet dungeon, which tells me that it's going to be relatively brief. So I'm going to post it in here. Boop. Boop. And let's take a look at the Wreck of the Void Hatred. Oh, it's 2 pages. Alright. An OSR fantasy adventure written by Richard Ruin, art by Jeff Thompson. And it's by art, they mean that picture right there, since it's the only art, and maybe like these little headers.
And that's all you need, because even that abstract thing is kind of funny. All right. The pirate Ashur Baal often offended the gods of Mount Kaz, so they struck his airship, the Void Hatred, from the sky. Thunderbolts tore away the dirigible balloon and slammed the gondola into the cliffs of the Holy Mountain. Its crew dead, the haunted ship sits on a thin shelf of ice over the bottomless gorge of Zin. Its engines, fueled by fire elementals, still burn, slowly melting their frozen perch and threatening to explode. The characters know the Void Hatred still contains treasures worth thousands of gold. They also know about the sword Baal stole from his mother, Jedra, the god queen of the night, and about the cruel, ever-beating heart in Baal's chest, a gift from Luris, his demon father. So you basically go in, and it's a dungeon crawl set in a crashed airship. There are no maps. There are simply compartments. So you've got your deck, the hold, one compartment, the gun deck, and each one just has a list of potential treasure, as well as a description. And it doesn't look like any of them even have. These don't even have creatures, but rather you. Hold on a second. They even have creatures? No, well, one of them does, just because Baal's body is like set in place. But most of the creatures you just pick from this creature list and you plug in. It's a pamphlet adventure. It needs a map. It needs a map. Even if you just like take a little bit out and put a tiny little map in, even if it's just like a side sketch with a 1, 2, and 3 on it, or 1, 2, 3, and 4 on it, then that would be better than this. Like, you could even trying to figure out how I do that without making it unreadable. Oh, I know. Maybe put the map or some abstract version up here. Like, instead of this just the mountain thing. Like, the mountain doesn't even have a picture of the airship, does it? I'm disappointed. I am disappointed with this. I like the setup. I will say this. I like the setup on that. All right, next up, Wondrous Weavings Warped and Weird, a pay-what-you-want product, I believe. Let me take a look at it, make sure it is good. It is still pay-what-you-wants from Axion Spice. Ah, I remember this one. This one was all over the place. Yeah, I remember looking through this one real quick. And I'll put the link in the chat. Ah, yes, this one is all over the place. It's for Old School Essentials. And I believe it's supposed to be like, I guess they're pamphlets or whatever. They used to just be like fold out. They used to just be like fold out pamphlets that would have like an adventure in them. And I think that's what they're going for here. Because see what you got here? It's like you print it out and then you fold it like zigzag. I don't know what's that called. Anyway, it's an alternate arcane magic system with magical mishaps for Old School Essentials. So got cover art by J.M. Woyak and Heather Shin of the Stinky Goblin, and I love the art. What can I say? The art's awesome. The following rules modify the rules of arcane magic and Old School Essentials. They are heavily inspired by how magic works in the stories by Jack Vance and Fritz Lieber, as well as the relevant rules in the BECME set of classic fantasy role-playing games. I love the Fritz Lieber magic rules from the Graves Mouser series. But the problem is that their casting takes forever. They're not really useful for combat. Alright, spellcasting. Arcane spellcaster has the ability to prepare and cast magical spells. Spell consists of weave patterns, etc. Number of spells arcane casters may prepare and hold in their minds equal to the character's level plus their language modifier from intelligence. So very few, especially considering that Old School Essentials is one of those OSR games. It doesn't necessarily have a level cap per se, but most adventuring takes place between 1 and 12. And you're never going to get more than a +3 on languages. So you're never going to have more than 15 spells total. No duplicate spells. A caster may only keep in mind the same spell once, so that much is good. That does expand your repertoire a bit. Access to spell level. Spell level represents the complexity of each magic formulation. Preparing a higher level spells requires greater understanding of things. First level casters may only prepare first level spells. Subsequent spell levels become accessible every 2 character levels. So similar to traditional Vancian spell casting in that general level. A caster may prepare spells regardless of spell level up to their maximum number of spells, so it works somewhat similar to 5th edition, in which case you basically have your limit of spells to memorize out of that. Spell books, spell books you got. You can contain any number of spells. That's good. Got beginning spells. I'm going to skip that because blah. You can add spells through mentoring, other spell books, scrolls, or research. Same old, same old. Optional rule, ritual casting. This is the important part because it's the most common thing in like the Liber style fantasy, at least from what I've seen of it. And I haven't read everything that Liber's done, but I've read enough to know that spell casting is rare but powerful in that one. Arcane spellcasters, in the comfort of their abode, don't need to prepare spells and keep them stored inside their minds. Simply take all the time they need to cast the desired spell straight from their book. This process requires several minutes or even hours and is usually not well suited for adventurers, but situations may arise where a specific spell becomes necessary. Like if you want to smite somebody across the city. Arcane spellcaster casts a spell they haven't prepared straight from their book, which must be at hand. This requires a number of turns equal to twice the spell level, which is better than nothing. You can spend a couple rounds in order to smite somebody from afar before they even get a spell off. Ritual is interrupted. The whole process wastes, so they must start again. No necessarily magical mishap unless you use the optional rules for them. Whenever any of the below conditions happens, the player must roll 1d20. If the spell's result is higher than level of spell, no mishap happens and the spell is cast normally. If it is equal to or lower than level of spell, the referee rolls the magical mishap table, which would be really nice, except that... actually, I don't know. If it depends. What is necessary? The disrupted ritual, which immediately invalidates what I said like 5 seconds ago about them not having any sort of backlash. Well, I guess I did qualify it unless you were using the magical mishap rules, or a disrupted spell. So if your spell is disrupted, or your ritual is disrupted, or if you try to prepare the same spell more than once, why would you even do that? That's the problem. Higher level spells. You try to memorize a spell you can't cast yet, which you can try, and you can possibly do it. Or you can try magical research. Then you get a 1d20 and try and roll above the spell level. So, that's not that bad. It could have been worse. So, magical mishaps, you just roll randomly. So you can possibly polymorph. You can mutate. Bad things happen. Circular pit opens in front of the target. Spell activates an anti-magic shell. The caster, with all their equipment, transforms into a magic item. Yes, so you can accidentally turn yourself into a broom of flying, or a magic sword. Whoops, my bad. And the fighter's like, well, at least you're really useful now. I don't mind. That's actually a decent little system. It's easy, it's quick, and it's incredibly compatible with anybody that's used to the 5th edition stuff. So Wondrous Weavings, Warped Weird. I like it. I like it a lot. It's not the best thing I've covered tonight, but it's pretty good. All right, I'm going to skip a couple of these. There is a free adventure called Hellcrow's Final Rest, which is another look for the ruined ship thing, and that makes 3 that I would cover here, and so I'm going to skip it. I'm also going to skip something called It's Simple, We Killed a Sandy Claus, because I got that in the intent to cover it before Christmas, and it is now in the middle of January, so that one was just you like try to kill Santa Claus, or a version thereof. Next up is Torches Zine 0, which is a free offering from Chestnut Publishing. It is a zine OSR with new adventures, mechanics, artifacts, and monsters for old school essentials, D&D BX Labyrinth Lord, or actually Labyrinthy Lord, because they typo. Another OSR tabletop role-playing games of a similar make. I will put the link in the description, or in the chat. And then we will pop it up. Torches Zine 0. So this is issue 0. I don't know if they've come out with anything else. Have they come out with anything else? Let me take a look at this. Have you come out with anything else, Chestnut Publishing? Chestnut Publishing has indeed got Torches Zine 1, which does cost something. It's $2.50. So if you see this and you think it's useful, they do have other offerings at a slightly higher price. They have also done Into the Madness, a tabletop role-playing game that does classic horror, pulp horror, Lovecraftian horror. So they've done a couple things. Let's take a look at this. Chestnut Publishing. A Biblioteca Period of Dead. Okay, the Mandracola, Porto. Please tell me. Okay, I was going to say, I was worried that I got this in like some other language. The Ancient Library of Agmatoth. So the table of contents is not in English. Or some of it is. But the actual contents are, so that's cool. Who is Agmatoth? It's Agmaron Tothalus was a great sage and mighty sorcerer of the realm of Zurin. Lost Library. For centuries, may have tried to discover the location of the Agmaron Library. Many say there's no fixed location. So you've basically got a library call. Using what looks like... Is that a Dyson Logos map or is that a new one? I do not know. Don't see a cartographer listed. I like the style. No, it's not a Dyson. I don't think it is. It's similar, but it's not identical. So that's just a basic dungeon crawl. It's a library. You got library rooms. I'm looking for specific. You got a room full of zombies. You got a couple traps that damage things but don't necessarily kill people. The Knowledge Hall has all kinds of books on medicine, history, herbalism, medicine, or history, herbalism, cultism, medicine, along other knowledge. Whenever somebody handles a book, roll 1d6. There's a very strong chance that the book falls apart, so you can go ahead and ruin the entire library. And it spawns skeletons. In this room, there are also 1d4 skeletons that when they hear the noises, attack them directly. On the next round, 2d4 more skeletons appear that were in rooms 5 and 6. And then it doesn't show the skeletons in there because it's assumed that when you are in here... What was that, 5 or 6? Alright, so if you go here, then the skeletons come up here and attack you. But what if you go directly to 5? Well, I guess you should read ahead, because apparently you have to read number 4 to see what's in number 5. It's not too bad. It's got a Ring of Wizardry +1, or it's basically a first level Ring of Wizardry in there. Got a +1 Warhammer. Got a fountain that can heal hit points. Unless you're evil, in which case it'll damage you and summon a water elemental. And from the level range of the monsters in the rest of the thing, I suspect that water elemental is going to show up and kick butt. I got a +1 magic spear and shield. Got some keys. Oh, exam will show they belong to Agmatoth. He's got a spell book in there. But no real... Doesn't look like there's any real quote-unquote boss. Is there a specter? Hold on. I'm not seeing a specter in here, but it is mentioned in here. So who knows? The Mandracola is a terrifying and wild creature that tends to attack distracted travelers exploring the jungles of Virapur. This is just an angry monkey. Holy crap, it's an angry monkey that's like 7 foot tall and has a scorpion's tail. Okay, that's a little bit more interesting. God. Oh, not just any monkey. Is this a baboon? Is this seriously a baboon with a scorpion tail? Oh, God. Man, I need to steal that. I need to use this one. It's got horrible sick poison, but not death. Except it can disable somebody by dropping them to half speed movement. It's only got 4 hit dice, which is cool. I'd probably hype that thing up though, because let's face it, baboons are like terrible. Puerto Groseras. That's just a town. It's a floating island. It's just got the. It's just a description of a floating island. All right, Defender of the Faith. It's a. Is this a? What is this? Opponent of the Faith, Defender of the Faith. It is a Death Knight, or something similar. It's not really a Death Knight. It's just like a. It looks like a evil knight. And then some background information so that you encounter him, but there's nothing else in the adventure. This is not bad. This isn't bad. It's got some nice little game hooks. It's got some nice little art. Torture Zine, Zero. I don't know. I've seen worse zines. I've seen better zines, but I've seen worse zines. That was cool. Let me take a look at the rest of this stuff, because I am done with the OSR stuff, and it's getting on. Let me take a look at what of the rest of this stuff is even worth looking at. So, the next one I was going to look at, but I'm probably going to skip for time, is the Frontier Trading Post. That is, and I'm going to pop it open real quick, but I'm not going to go through it. That is a Cepheus Engine adventure by Joseph Moore. Joseph Moore puts out a ton of adventures, and they're usually decent, although they're usually bare bones. So I'm not going to go through it. I've taken a look at several adventures produced by the same person in the past. I liked them. They're neat, but they're very bare bones. Let me take a look at Supper at Ravenous. In fact, I'm going to put a link to the Frontier Trading Post because I did open it, even though I'm not going to cover this. Pay what you want issue. There you go. Next is Supper at the Ravenous Castle. And I already know a couple of them I'm not going to get to tonight. This is only 5 pages. Let's go ahead. Oh, it's only for 18 plus, but I know for a fact it's got nothing in there that is necessarily upsetting. At least not to me. Might be upsetting to you. Trigger warning. If it's upsetting to you, you may want to leave my channel. I would recommend you disable all notifications when you do, because you'll probably not like the things I have to say. Supper at the Ravenous Castle is a pay-what-you-want adventure from Mundos Infinitos. To play, you need mature friends with a strong stomach. Oh, let's fit 1 page. Let's get the 1 page. That is 1 page. It's got a 2-page spread on 1 page. To play, you need mature friends with a strong stomach, 6-sided dice, at least 1 copy of this game, and copies of the prisoner sheets, for at least 1 per prisoner, because it is not actually... It is like its own thing. It's just... It's got its own rules and such. It's a dungeon-crawling survival horror and eschatological horror game in a dark fantasy setting. This game contains sensitive and man, I never was one for deep various analysis and scholarly terms. My degree was not full of fluff. It was full of studying algorithms and making artificial intelligence, so not exactly something I need, but so when I mispronounce stuff, excuse me. This game contains sensitive and eschatological content such as corporophagy, anthropophagy, among others. And thank you for demonetizing me again, YouTube. Appreciate it. The setting is sinister, dark, isolated, macabre, and disturbing. This game system is based on the Cruciaman 9X system, which I have no idea about. No idea if that's a good system or not. This game works best with 2 to 3 main prisoners, few and lonely, because you are essentially a prisoner in a hungry castle. Use these works for reference and inspiration. The 120 journey... Yeah, the Marquis de Sade. Yeah, I'm going to skip that. The Modern Prometheus, Dracula, Dungeons & Dragons First Edition, Biohazard... Waiting for OBS to reconnect. There we go. The Human Centipede, first sequence, Escape, The Dark Castle, and El Hoyo. So it looks like it's basically your haunted castle plus body horror. Oh, God. But it's just like standard. So you've got this castle full of depraved people in black magic. You're a prisoner in it. You share your cell with each other for a few months. Dungeon Master recounts how they managed to get out of their cells for the first time. And then you go on from there. And you basically travel through the castle. And you don't have a hard and fast map. It's generated by zones. And then you travel from zone to zone. Each prisoner has very basic RPG traits. You've got a couple traits. You choose or make 2 traits. You choose a skill. You choose a taboo that you have broken it at some point in your life. Basically, your sin that has got you drawn here. And then you got 2 counters, a hunger card counter and a damage counter. So it is a tabletop role-playing game, or is a tabletop game, not necessarily a lot of role-playing in here. Although it looks like it might have a lot of role-playing. That has a hunger bar. Well, at least it doesn't have a stamina bar. Oh, wait a minute. States. Fatigue. Okay, so it doesn't have a stamina bar, but it does have, a fatigue ability, bleeding, poisoning, panic, pestilence, paralysis, and parasites. You get to choose 2 labors, which gives you effectively things that you have done that let you deal with items attached to that labor. Then you've got 2 starting items from a very, very bare bone list of items. And your objective is to survive and get out. And it's mostly just randomly generated. You know, I'm feeling like vaguely disappointed in this. Like, I'm reading it right now, but I'm feeling vaguely disappointed because they hype up this game only for 18 plus. Inspiration is the works of Marquis de Sade, the human centipede. And then when you look at it, it's just like, find food and leave. You might have hallucinations. You might encounter disgusting things that are only vaguely mentioned here. Cover yourself in feces to camouflage your scent. That's like the most edgy thing in this entire thing. So, yeah, kind of disappointed, man. I understand the concept, but this could be literally, you could put this system with little to no changes on, you could just relabel it almost anything. Supper at the Ravenous Castle, escape from the Care Bearer cells. You could do the same thing and just make a few minor cosmetic changes and it would be the same thing. Kind of disappointed, but that's what you get. Anyway, that was Supper at the Ravenous Castle. I will put a link to that in the chat. And I am going to wrap it up here. I was going to cover Fire and Steel and Bastard with the E basic rules, but I think I'm out of time. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope that people who have watched this and have enjoyed. I hope if you're watching this at a later date, you enjoy it as well. I will have more of my Solasta Crown of the Magister Let's Play ready. I will have more of my Curse of the Azure Bonds Let's Play ready on my secondary channel. For those who don't know, I do have a secondary gameplay channel where I'm putting games that don't necessarily they're not going to draw the eyes or anything like even the basic stuff I play on the main channel do. So I put them over there. I don't know when I'm going to bring back Indie Game Friday, because it's my schedule has been completely flush. But I do have a few other ideas I'm going to come up forward. I'm going to get my review of my Lankmar DCC RPG. I'm reading the last book right now. Review should be scripted and recorded this weekend. It should be going up. I don't know about next week, maybe late next week, or at least the patrons will get it next week, but it may not get on the main channel until the week after. Aside from that, I'm going to try and keep doing what I'm doing. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your continued support for those who have supported me. If you like what you see, remember to leave a like, comment, got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye.